All right, folks, we are live. Sorry for the late start tonight, but it's been a long day here, okay? We did 2 videos, 1 short, and I had to also take my last final exam today. So, certainly been a pretty productive day to say the least, but I couldn't ignore the opportunity to go live because we need to do an emergency broadcast to discuss the unbanning of Alex Jones on Twitter/X, as well as one British friend of ours getting very upset about that, and a lot more tonight. Stay tuned, ladies and gentlemen. And we are live tonight from the great... Hold on. I just realized something. Okay, we are live tonight from the great state of Florida. Welcome, everyone, to the VinceDao Show. I am your exhausted host, Vince Dao. It is December 12th, the year of our Lord, 2023. And we got a pretty big story to talk about, ladies and gentlemen. We'll talk about Alex Jones and the unbanning here tonight. But first, before we get into that, as usual, be sure to leave a like on the stream right now. Subscribe to the channel if you are new. And again, if you would like to super chat tonight to support the show, you got questions, comments, thoughts on any of the stuff going on or anything going on in the world right now, feel free to do so via these super chats. In fact, I know we got one right here from Dollar for Dollar, so let's read that before we start. Dollar for Dollar says the reason the wage gap exists is because some cuck 100 years ago told his wife how much he was actually making. Now women out-earn that. All right, thank you for that, Dollar for Dollar. Appreciate the 5. And yeah, with that said, ladies and gentlemen, hope you guys had a great weekend. I'm going to take a very long sleep after this. Not an eternal sleep, but a very long sleep after this. But we got one more piece of content to get out for you guys today because we have to chronicle this entire situation with the unbanning of Alex Jones on Twitter. And because we already did a video talking about that a little bit earlier today, I will focus mainly tonight on the absolute Piers Morgan meltdown that has ensued. And this is something that is truly pathetic to witness. Piers Morgan has a show called Piers Morgan Uncensored. And yet it seems to me all he ever does is call for censorship, right? So he has a show called Uncensored. The reason he has a show called Uncensored, ironically, is because he himself was censored and canceled from Good Morning Britain for exercising free speech and saying controversial things about Meghan Markle or something like that. And yet here he is saying that it was a mistake for X to bring back Alex Jones and he shouldn't be allowed a platform, even though Piers Morgan himself has given a platform to Alex Jones by having him on the show. It's a big situation. We got to talk about it tonight, but first, let's start from the top. If you've been living under a rock for the last 24 hours, we got some big developments as, ladies and gentlemen, Alex Jones, it is official. All right, I'm proud to be an American. Many of us never thought we would see the day, has been reinstated on Twitter/X by none other than Elon Musk himself. And it's actually particularly interesting because Elon initially, when he bought out Twitter, actually said he would not be bringing back Alex Jones, but it seems that the Tucker Carlson interview that happened last week actually has changed his mind on that. They seem to have had some conversations, and so let's first play the video. This is the return video of Alex Jones to Twitter.
The day after being reinstated to X, I was on Mario Nawfal's #1 X Spaces program. It had over 120,000 people watching at one time. More than 8 million watched it by the time it was over. Elon Musk came on for more than 2 hours, and I asked a lot of good questions. So officially, I was the guy getting interviewed, but I turned it around, made it about Elon Musk, because quite frankly, he's even more interesting than I am. We're going to be posting this interview with just my questions, cut down the full interviews, obviously on Mario's channel. We'll be posting it to X here in the next few hours. I'll be playing on my radio show and TV show tomorrow, 11 a.m. Central, Infowars.com/show. So for all the people that heard about Infowars, but didn't know what we really stood for because it was misrepresented, this is your chance to go to Infowars.com/show, ban.video, or at Real Alex Jones back on Twitter, and actually see what I say, see what I stand for, and see it in context. At Real Alex Jones, please follow us there. You can also find us where we've still been on air 5 years after we were deplatformed at Infowars.com/show, ban.video, and newswars.com. But this is historic. It's way bigger than Alex Jones. This is about Renaissance 2.0. It's about free speech winning. It's about the deep state failing. This is beyond cool. And again, Elon Musk talks about everything, including subjects he's never been asked about before in this interview. So I'll be on my regular show. I'll be breaking it down weekday.
Okay, so you basically get the idea. If you're curious what he's talking about, not only did Elon Musk choose to unban Alex Jones, which frankly would have been good enough for me, but he actually went on a Twitter space with him, and we did a video earlier today reacting to most of it, but that was also, first of all, the fact that Elon had the guts to go and share a quote-unquote platform. You know, it's one thing to quietly reinstate an account. It's another thing to openly do an interview with a guy, so props to Elon for that. And that was a chaotic Twitter space, to say the least, because you didn't just have Alex and Elon. You had Vivek Ramaswamy. You had, who else am I thinking of? Andrew Tate was on there. A lot of people. It was like the Avengers of internet people. And like I said, we did a video earlier today reacting to it, so I'm not gonna share you the full thing. I mean, you can go watch the video from earlier. But just to highlight one of the most iconic things that happened in what was probably the biggest Twitter space here in history, Vivek Ramaswamy was on the space, you know, talking on the live stream, obviously. And then when he wasn't talking, he went to go pee. Okay, he went to go take a piss, and he forgot to turn his mic off. Okay, so this is what happened on the space. I mean, what else could happen? Sorry, the craziest Sunday in a long time. Certainly not in history, but in a long time. Here's him talking about that with Jesse Waters.
All right, we're seeing that Vivek has a P tape. Let's first listen.
You know, humans in America, humans.
Somebody's got
and everywhere else.
Their phone open in the bathroom.
Yeah, that's Vivek. That's your phone, Vivek. I'm not able to mute you.
All right, so you were talking to Musk and a bunch of other characters, and did you go to the bathroom?
Well, they did say it was a live stream, Jesse, I guess. But I'll say that we're all human. We're all human is what I'll say. Elon and I have had some good conversations, and he and I had, I think, a laugh out of that one coming out of it. So he wished me for feeling better. I told him that I was. We're all human beings, and it was a good 2-hour discussion on X, which is officially, I could say that apparently is now very much censorship-free.
All right, well, so this P-tape, not funded by Hillary Clinton. It was just done organically by Vivek Ramaswamy. Good luck in New Hampshire and everywhere. We appreciate you joining Prime Time. Glad you're safe and you're relieved.
Thank you.
All right.
So you know, I think if it was a different type of political candidate, that could be very discrediting. But the fact that Vivek did it, I don't know, there's just something about that fits. It was hilarious. And arguably, okay, it was kind of a Sigma male thing to do. It's like, listen, I know conventional wisdom says when you're on a live stream or a call and you're peeing, you should turn off your mic. But Vivek Ramaswamy doesn't take rules from nobody. It's so true. Okay. Anyways, regardless, just wanted to play that. It was funny. It was pretty legendary. Let's talk now about the substance of this entire situation. So again, to reiterate here, Alex Jones has been unbanned on X, and they held one of the biggest Twitter spaces of all time to interview him and talk about that, and Elon Musk was directly in the conversation. So obviously, it goes without saying, I don't think I have to explain this to anyone on this channel, that this is a huge and important win for free speech. You know, when Elon bought Twitter, he claimed he was going to make it a First Amendment friendly platform. I don't think it's necessarily perfect. I don't know if any platform is truly perfect in that regard, but he's definitely taken a lot of good steps in the right direction. It's been pretty positive, I would say, overall. And I think the unbanning of Alex Jones is a pretty important moment in that sort of story, right? Because that's a moment of not just, hey, we're going to unban all of the mainstream conservatives who got deleted for defending Trump or something like that. That's a big step in the next direction, which is, here's a guy who's quote unquote controversial. Here's a guy who has been, you know, so ruthlessly and even legally demonized by the mainstream institutions in this country. And Elon shows, hey, I'm going to even stand up for his free speech. So obviously that's a very important thing. And I think really, I don't want to understate this, but I think everything that Elon has done with Twitter, and especially this moment saying he's going to unban Alex Jones, is actually a pretty, that was my cup, okay? That was not what you thought it was. That was a pretty pivotal moment in our civilization itself. Because I think when you consider, you know, what they're doing and how important to them the censorship on big tech is to the proliferation of, you know, the agenda, the narrative, whatever it is, and how much that has just been royally destroyed by just at least even having one mainstream. I know there's a lot of great alt tech platforms out there, but having just one mainstream platform owned by the wealthiest man in the world who says, nope, we're not going to go along with this. We're going to stand up to this. We're not going to allow the censorship. This is going to be just, even if not even a right-wing platform, just an open platform. Again, cannot understate that. That is very important. And I think the unbanning of Alex Jones is a big kind of milestone step there in that crusade. Now, every time I defend the right to Alex Jones's free speech, which I don't think needs to be defended, let me just address this really quickly, which is, I know I always get the one or two comments out there, that say something along the lines of, why are you defending Alex Jones? Alex Jones is a terrible person. This is really pathetic of you, Vince Dow. You're better than this, Vince Dow. It's like, okay, listen. I will say I do agree with a lot of the things Alex Jones says. And if you look at the history of a lot of his predictions in terms of things that were going to happen in this country, or his analysis postpartum of things that did happen in this country, I think a lot of it's been very accurate, and I think he's an important voice in that conversation. Does he get everything right? No. Has he been wrong about a lot of stuff? Yes, he has. But that is true of literally every right-wing conservative commentator out there, including myself. If we were all to apply that same exact standard, if you can never get a prediction wrong, you can never be wrong in hindsight about any particular issue, then all of us need to be banned from social media. And I'm sure some people would like to see that, but still, regardless. So I think that's a silly point. But here's what I would say to the people who have no respect for Alex Jones and are the Piers Morgan type of people out there about this issue. Please keep in mind that my defense of Alex Jones in this whole situation has really had nothing to do with what he actually believes. Again, there are things he believes that I say he's right about that, and conservatives shouldn't be so scared to say Alex Jones was right about this or Alex Jones was right about that. If he was right about it, then what's wrong with saying what is true? But still, regardless, that doesn't even matter, because it is just simply true that if you're truly about free speech, if that's what you claim is a good thing, that's really all I've ever defended about Alex Jones in this particular situation, which is he should have the right to speech. I'm of the view I don't think there should really be any censorship on these social media platforms outside of what is blatantly against the law. So, you know, so I think all types of people should be able to have a voice on these platforms. But understand, when I defend Alex Jones's right to be on these platforms, or I argue that he should be reinstated, blah, 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 whatever it is, that's all there is to it. And I don't understand the very small fraction of conservatives who what do you, let me ask you this question. What do you think you are gaining from, I actually stand with the liberals on this. I also think Alex Jones is a bad guy, and I don't think conservatives should give him a platform. What are you gaining from that? Serious question. Do you think the liberals are suddenly going to like you because, hey, I took a principled stand against this angry, bitter conspiracy theorist? Do you think they're going to respect you for that? Do you think that will stop you from yourself being deplatformed if push comes to shove? The answer is absolutely not. Okay? So really, shame on any right-wing figure, whether that's prominent commentators, although I don't think I've seen many of them, to tell you the truth. But if they're out there, prominent commentators or conservatives coming to me in the comment section saying, Vince, how dare you defend a guy's right to free speech and right to be on a platform? How about you listen to yourself? What is wrong with you? Truly, if you have an issue with saying, hey, this controversial guy should still be allowed the right to free speech, then there's nothing principled about you. I think you're the person who really needs to look in the mirror and kind of have a serious discussion with yourself there, and stop going around commenting all of this passive-aggressive concern trolling about why is Vince or why is this person or that person defending Alex Jones? I think he should be censored or banned. It's like, okay, whatever. I think most people understand that, but just want to point that out because you always get on any Alex Jones friendly post one or two right-wingers out there saying, how dare you defend that guy, man? You're better than that, man. It's like, no. Actually, you're just worse than that because apparently you claim like I'm a principled conservative who's all about free speech, but when it comes to the free speech of someone who is remotely controversial, suddenly it's, no, I don't want Alex Jones on this platform. Long story short, this is a very important thing, and it's a great development that, hey, like I said, X is moving closer in that direction. Well, to piggyback off my last point, one key figure in the I claim to be for free speech crowd, but not when it applies to Alex Jones, type of thinking is, of course, one Piers Morgan. And now we're getting into the fun part of tonight's stream because we have to react to and talk about the absolutely unhinged Piers Morgan meltdown over the mere reinstatement of Alex Jones on X. So keep in mind, Elon Musk, he did do the Twitter space, so you could say that's something. But overall, Elon Musk is not even endorsing Alex Jones. He's just saying, hey, Alex is allowed to be on this platform. It's a public square. It's a town square, however you want to see it. It's a free speech platform. The guy has the right to speak. Well, Piers Morgan took serious issue with that. In fact, notably, he seemed to have taken an even bigger issue with Alex Jones being reinstated, truthfully, than most liberals even are. And in a second here, we'll, read his stuff and react to his segment. But I do want to play this really quickly because the research team at VinceDao Media was working diligently throughout the day. And we've actually uncovered a real video of Piers Morgan talking about this situation. And this is, again, 100% real. Here is a actual video of Piers Morgan trying to lecture American conservatives as a British guy on what the First Amendment means, on what free speech is actually all about. Here he is. Check it out. This is, again, a real video of Piers Morgan talking about his views on the situation.
Well, at least we're not getting slaughtered in mathematics class.
So again, that's really him. That's really his voice. And that's, again, British Piers Morgan, talking and trying to lecture American conservatives about what American conservatism means and what free speech means and all this different stuff. Okay, getting into what he said here, besides that, again, 100% real clip, Piers Morgan responded to the Alex Jones unbanning, which, by the way, if you know anything about Piers Morgan, if you've seen the interviews throughout the years, Piers has total Alex Jones derangement syndrome, okay? And if I were to tell you the truth, I think it all stems back to 2012 when Alex went on his show to debate about gun control, and Alex made him look so stupid, and it's one of the most legendary interviews of all time. If you've seen the clip that's like, 1776 will commence again if you try to take our firearms, right? That clip. I think the truth is that Piers has really just been salty about the guy ever since then, and he's held an over decade-long grudge by this point. But regardless, Piers Morgan responds to, again, the simple unbanning of a guy on social media in the name of free speech. He says, I've written a column for the New York Post about Elon Musk allowing disgusting Sandy Hook family tormentor Alex Jones back on here. It doesn't pull punches, right? Because Piers Morgan is a real tough guy. Don't you know he survived 9 days of COVID? He's been tweeting about that actually before he decided to make today about Alex Jones. So don't you know, Piers Morgan is a real tough guy. He's been in his house for like 9 days. Could you be in your house for 9 days with COVID and wearing a mask? I don't think so. Real tough guy, right? And then he says, posting soon. Now, we're not going to actually read the article. Let's instead just listen to his monologue on that because I think that's more broadcast friendly. Here is him talking. Again, this is Piers Morgan, a guy who is not necessarily right-wing, but he's sort of like center of the road. He claims to be anti-woke. He claims to be free speech. He claims to have a show called Piers Morgan Uncensored, right? Again, to reiterate, what is the implication there? It's that, hey, I'm a real free speech warrior, ain't I? Because, as you know, Piers was actually censored from Good Morning Britain. He got fired from his last job for saying, you know, controversial things about Meghan Markle. So you would think he, of all people, understands what this feels like, right? He understands that, hey, you can have an opinion and the system will destroy you for your free speech, and it's very wrong, but it's actually the opposite of that. Here is Piers Morgan talking about why he's a free speech warrior and he's uncensored, except for when he's not. Okay, let's take a listen.
Well, I'm a passionate defender of free speech. There's a massive clue in the name of this show, uncensored. And I believe in it. I believe
Ironic.
that all honestly held opinions, however offensive they are, belong in the open, where they can be challenged, debated, and exposed. But there are limits on free speech. There are laws, and there is a line. I've always said that Alex Jones is a perfect example of where that line got crossed. He's a conspiracy theorist and shock jock in America who made hundreds of millions of dollars by peddling outrageous lies that the Sandy Hook school massacre shooting was a hoax. For the uninitiated...
Okay, hold on. Let's okay, listen to this again very carefully. All right, I wasn't paying attention, my bad. I was trying to check the super chat.
I'm a passionate defender of free speech.
Okay, I'm a passionate defender of free speech. That's the very first thing he says in this monologue. Now let's listen to the rest of it.
There's a massive clue in the name of this show, uncensored.
The show is uncensored.
And I believe in it. I believe that all honestly held...
He believes in it.
...opinions, however offensive they are, belong in the open.
I believe that all honestly held opinions, however offensive they are, belong in the open. How can you say those three things to start a monologue and then literally just say in the next 2 sentences, I actually don't believe any of those things?
Where they can be challenged, debated, and exposed. But there are limits on free speech. There are laws, and there is a line. I've always said that Alex Jones is a perfect example of where that line got crossed. He's a conspiracy theorist and shock jock in America who made hundreds of millions.
Okay, so, like, you know, we've only listened to him for 30 seconds, but the guy's already contradicted himself. The guy literally said, first few sentences, I believe in free speech. Next sentence, no, I don't. It really is that simple. Okay, so that is Piers Morgan's stance on this entire thing. Now, to point out how stupid he himself actually is, okay, because the guy gets very fixated on taking a moral stand about this one thing and then saying it over and over again. If I'm to get this correctly, the argument is basically that Alex Jones is too dangerous or too wrong or too offensive or too immoral, whatever you want to say. He's not deserving of a platform. Would we agree? That's pretty much, you know, Piers Morgan's central argument here is, you know, I'm for free speech, but this guy's too dangerous to have a platform. That's basically what Piers seems to believe. We agree? Okay. So then it would be ironic, and this was an interesting question then. I think this is the biggest hole you can poke in anything that Piers Morgan's saying. Forget any arguments about the free speech itself. Forget this or that or the actual substance of what he's saying. Piers Morgan, if you think Alex Jones is too dangerous to have a platform, because that's all that Elon Musk gave him, right? He has a social media account like everyone else. He can say what he wants like everyone else. It's the duty of the public to discern who is right and listen to it for themselves, right? If you think he's too dangerous to have that platform, then why did you yourself repeatedly give Alex Jones a platform? And of course, you're saying, oh, what do you mean by that? Well, I am pointing out the fact that Piers Morgan has actually had Alex Jones on his show multiple times. And I know what Piers Morgan would say in response to that. He would say, oh, well, you know, I had him on. Yeah, I gave him a platform, but it doesn't mean I agree with what he has to say. Here it is. Here's the proof, just for people who think I'm talking crazy. Here is him just 10 months ago. Okay, so he can't use the excuse, oh, this was before the Sandy Hook lawsuit or whatever. They came on specifically to talk about and discuss the Sandy Hook lawsuit. So just 10 months ago, Piers Morgan on his own show gave Alex Jones a platform, but simultaneously says he's too dangerous to have a platform. So please explain to me how that actually checks out and how that actually makes any sense there. And here's the truth about it. Is, according to Piers Morgan, it's not okay to give Alex Jones any kind of platform. You know, forget the idea of whether or not you endorse him or his beliefs. It's not okay to give him a platform to practice his speech and say what he thinks is on his mind. That's too dangerous. Unless he's doing it on Piers Morgan's show. And, want to point this out too, Piers Morgan is profiting from it, right? Piers Morgan is monetizing it. 1.3 million views. Piers made a lot of money off of this interview. Okay? So I think that's the single easiest way to poke a hole in this fake moralistic stand that, you know, Piers Morgan is taking about the entire situation. It really is that simple. It really is that simple. If Piers Morgan thinks that Alex Jones is too dangerous to have a platform, then he shouldn't have given Alex Jones a platform. Okay? So I don't know how X is any different. Maybe the difference is that on Twitter, he's not able to, Piers Morgan is not able to constantly cut off and interrupt Alex Jones. Maybe that's what it's really about. But yeah, so this is what I basically said about it. Piers Morgan had Alex Jones on his show, but he's mad that X is giving him a platform to speak. What's your problem? Is it only okay to platform Alex Jones when you are able to monetize it? Very true. And of course, it is, of course, even more ironic considering Piers Morgan himself has been repeatedly canceled for practicing and exercising his own free speech. He should know better, but no, he's just like he's a hypocritical, fence-sitting weirdo. I mean, I don't know what else there is to say about it. So, you know, long story short, there's the Piers Morgan situation. And it seems to me the pretext he's using to justify this is kind of, oh, look, I'm taking a legal stand on this. The central argument as to why Piers does not believe, from my understanding, that Alex is not allowed a platform on Twitter is because he claims it's because of the Sandy Hook lawsuit. Which there's many things to be said about that, okay? Do I think Alex Jones should have necessarily said the things he said about that whole situation? No, I don't want to get sued either, okay? But with that said, my own opinions on it is I think it was very overblown in terms of the context. 1.2 billion is ridiculous. In my opinion, it was an obvious case of lawfare, right? It's not really clean justice. It always seemed to me like a weaponization of justice. But regardless of what you actually think about it, it was a civil case. It was a defamation lawsuit. It was not a criminal lawsuit, you know. But this is essentially Piers Morgan's argument here. Okay, so someone replies to his whole angry tirade about the whole situation. They said, hate speech isn't a thing. To which Piers Morgan replies that there is such a thing as hate speech when it involves spewing defamatory lies, which Alex Jones discovered to his $1.2 billion cost. So this is a pretty common theme with Piers Morgan. You know, he'll run to the system and say, hey, look, the crooked courts convicted you and made you pay $1.2 billion. See, I'm right and you're wrong. But regardless of whatever you have to say about that, here's another thing I will bring up here. Okay, and I said this, which is that, first of all, contrary to what a lot of people are saying about Alex Jones and him being reinstated on Twitter, the Sandy Hook situation and everything that went on there is not the reason he was banned from Twitter. Okay, if you actually go back and look to, what was it, 2017, 2018 or something like that, the reason they banned him was because he did that video at the Capitol, basically heckling some CNN journalist in public or something like that. To which, you know, I always thought that was kind of silly. I mean, I have my own opinions on that behavior and like whatever, but everyone does it. It's a pretty common thing that reporters do. Hey, let's ask people questions and kind of, you know, heckle them in public. I think it's just something that sort of comes with journalism and happens all the time. Again, if you're going to ban people for that, then ban everyone who confronts people in public as a journalist, right, as a reporter. But still, regardless, again, to reiterate, if you actually go back and look at the timeline, he got banned from Twitter long before the Sandy Hook lawsuit even started or was really brought up a whole lot in American politics. It's actually something that they started pushing after he was deplatformed. And of course, coincidentally, quote unquote, they only started pushing that when he no longer had social media, right? He had no real avenue to defend himself to the general public. And then that's when they start to slander you. Many such cases, they always do this. But, you know, so I pointed that out. I said, you can bring up the Sandy Hook stuff, but that's not the reason he was banned from Twitter. So to use that as a pretext to say that's why he should continue to be banned on Twitter, that doesn't make any sense. And I also challenged a lot of people to bring this up. When you usually, generally speaking, ban someone from a social media platform, at least under the kind of guidelines, you're not supposed to just be able to ban them for who they are or what their name is or what they look like or something like that. It has to be for incorrect or misuse of the platform itself. So I challenged a lot of people to say this because they said, oh, well, he defamed the Sandy Hook parents and all that stuff. So I challenge people. We're having a conversation here particularly about Twitter and whether he should be on Twitter. Show me when and where, using Twitter as a platform, right, on Twitter, he specifically defamed the Sandy Hook parents. His Twitter account is now back, so you can, you know, go ahead and try to find me the tweets. But again, if he never used Twitter in the first place to do that stuff, and again, not been convicted of anything criminal, as a matter of fact, then I think it's pretty ridiculous to say, hey, this like random unrelated thing that he did that people think is bad, that's the reason he should be banned on Twitter. But I also pointed this out here because Piers Morgan was claiming all day to be an expert on the First Amendment and how it actually works. I pointed this out here, which was, nor does American law state anywhere that you lose the rest of your First Amendment because you lost a defamation case, right? And that's true. If you slander someone or if you defame someone, yes, you have to retract those statements. Yes, oftentimes you have to go to court and pay a civil settlement for those statements. But Piers, since you claim to be an expert on the First Amendment, but you clearly don't understand how it actually works, the moment that happens, after that, you still have your First Amendment right to say anything else you want that is not defamation or slander or incitement to violence. So I pointed that out. I said, how does that make any sense? Oh, because he lost a defamation case over this one thing, that means he shouldn't have the right to any of his free speech? Maybe that's how it works in the UK. That's not how it works in the United States, okay? But I further went on to point this out. I said, if you think so, if that's the standard of Piers Morgan, again, if you lose a defamation case, you should lose all your free speech forever if you just lose a civil lawsuit. Then I said, should all journalists and outlets who have ever lost a defamation case be deplatformed as well? And just destroyed off the face of the earth, you know, bankrupt and sent out of business forcibly by the state? Because if that's the case, then CNN, bye-bye, Washington Post, all of them, you know, I think in the history of most media outlets, at some point you can find some type of defamation case that they either settled or took to court and lost. You know, happens all the freaking time. Newsflash. So if you think a mere defamation case, which again has happened to most prominent media outlets at one time or another in their history, if you think that should remove their entire First Amendment, then would you apply that to all the other media outlets? To which the answer is obviously no. It just comes down to the fact that Piers Morgan has utter Alex Jones derangement syndrome. Like I said, I would speculate he is still bitter over the fact that Alex has come on his show many times throughout the years and just made him look really stupid, and it's pretty hilarious. And he's a laughingstock that, once again, sounds like this every time he tries to attack Americans for not understanding what free speech actually means or something like that.
Well, at least we're not getting slaughtered in mathematics class. But
that is basically the entire situation here. Okay? So there's the story on Piers Morgan. Last thing I want to say here, and this is something I want to highlight, because Piers Morgan does sometimes do things that deserve credit. We have done videos on this channel reacting to content where he destroys a woke activist, right? Because it's important to point out, Piers Morgan is not just your generic liberal, and that's why I'm making so much time talking about this. Because if this was some CNN anchor, it's like, okay, we know what you believe. Like, that's not surprising to us. But Piers Morgan obviously has a show called Uncensored. He himself has been canceled throughout the years for saying controversial or anti-woke things, challenging status quos, and so that's all absolutely true. So, whether you want to see him as center left or center right, however you want to actually view it, the point of the matter is these guys are supposedly characters who are kind of awake to it all and are not just total bots of the system. And so this is what I pointed out. I threw in Bill Maher in this thread because I think he's a similar figure who suffers from the same exact problem. And let me just start reading it here. It basically is this. I said, the most frustrating part about people like Bill Maher and Piers Morgan, right? The sort of the new anti-woke brigade, right? Is it isn't their liberal views, quote unquote, but rather it is their pro-establishment views, right? Because, for instance, me and Bill Maher disagree on marijuana, well, let's just say. But it doesn't really, make me angry or get under my skin when he says he supports weed, but it does when he says things like, oh, Hillary Clinton is a good person and she did nothing wrong, or, the scientists are actually trying to work with our best interests at heart, right? Just as one example. Piers Morgan, same story. I believe in free speech, but when it comes to actually defending controversial figures, I don't believe in free speech, right? So I went on to say this. I said, they will call out the woke, but when it actually counts, people like this, again, the new anti-woke brigade, they'll viciously defend the system. They'll stand up for the system. They'll defend the official narrative. And not only will they take that side of things, but most importantly, they will attack you. They will call you a conspiracy theorist for stating the obvious. And then what always happens here is years later, when they realize they were wrong, they will then proclaim that they are enlightened or brave or speaking truth to power for simply noticing something that the so-called conspiracy theorists saw already. And it's always the same cycle with them, right? So this is when the damage is already done. They don't apologize or self-reflect. And I said here, and it's very true, COVID was a prime example of that. Although I know Bill Maher was much better than Piers Morgan on a lot of the COVID stuff, but that was a prime example. Just to demonstrate here what I'm talking about. It's like when things actually counted, when people were actually being locked down, when they were actually having the mandates forced down their throat, people like Piers Morgan totally defended it. They said it's a good thing. We trust the scientists. This is for public health. What are you, a conspiracy theorist? And then now years later, when the damage has already been done and the time to listen to him, to listen to the conspiracy theorists, I should say, was actually years ago, what do they turn around and say? They instead say, suddenly now down the road, they say, oh, well, actually, they were wrong about all of that, and I'm enlightened now because I see what was wrong with that. It's like, dude, where were you the whole time? You were asleep. You were in your echo chamber. You were calling all of us conspiracy theorists for saying the same thing that you said. And it's like, don't get me wrong. I get it. Some people wake up at later stages than others. So I'm perfectly fine with, hey, we're sorry. You know, we were wrong and we'll listen to you next time. But that's the problem, is that they never self-reflect, which is why they do the same exact cycle over and over again, where they say, you know, they'll now say we were right about COVID. But then when the next major issue comes up, I'm calling it right now, they're going to do the same exact thing. They're going to shill for the system. And then, like I said, years later, when they realize it was wrong, they will once again turn around and say, oh, well, you know, the system was wrong and they lied to us. Many such cases. I would not be surprised if Piers Morgan and this Alex Jones chronicle ends in a very similar situation. But yeah, with that said, ladies and gentlemen, there is the story with Alex Jones and Piers Morgan that basically wraps up all I had to say about all of this. And again, this is an emergency live. I'm honestly pretty tired right now. So we'll call it a night here pretty soon. But first, let me read the super chats. So we are now open, folks, to our super chats. If you got questions, comments, anything for me, feel free to do so. And then we will call it a night here. We'll probably do this for a couple minutes and then we will get going. But all right, here we go. Let's get to our super chats, ladies and gentlemen. Okay, Soup Person for $5 says Vivek for Secretary of Waste Management. Soup Person, I'm going to pretend like I don't know what you mean by that. Thank you for the $5. Let's see here. What else do we got? Obama for $5 says, Vince, Alex Jones should instead be canceled for calling Robert Blair White a beautiful quote-unquote woman. Well, you do have a point there, right? If we were to criticize him for anything, it should be stuff like that. But, you know, instead, as are most things, they don't really attack you when you're genuinely wrong about something. They only attack you when you're genuinely right. Many such cases, it is very true. So thank you for the 5, and thank you for the 5. Who sent the other one? Soup Person, I appreciate it. Again, folks, feel free to super chat. I'm just going to, read chat, hang out here for a couple minutes, and then call it a night. Unless we got other stories you guys want me to talk about. I mean, this is obviously the headline news of the day right now. But another thing, if you've not heard, someone was assassinated. I mean, someone was arrested today, I should say. Someone was arrested today for plotting to assassinate or threatening to kill or something like that, Vivek Ramaswamy. So, obviously we're glad he's okay. We're glad that the person has been apprehended, but certainly is a scary situation, right? And I think, in my lifetime, at least, there have not been any prominent incidents like that in America. Obviously, older Americans will remember the Kennedy assassination or the attempted one against Reagan. But it's sad, but it's true. I think you see where the division of our politics is headed and the vitriol and all that, and especially the rhetoric they spout against authentically conservative figures, or even people who just sometimes tell the truth that is too close to the sun about certain things. This is unfortunately the country we are headed towards, but we're glad he's okay. And look, if I were any presidential candidate in the cycle who is seen as remotely anti-establishment, be that Trump, RFK, Vivek Ramaswamy, Secret Service really better beef up the security there. Although, in fact, I think you've heard that RFK is not even getting a Secret Service detail, at least so far. And that was a deliberate choice by the Biden White House. It's like, are you insane? Here's RFK. First of all, the name Kennedy itself, even if he was a totally milquetoast pro-establishment guy, the mere fact that his name is Kennedy, and obviously the Kennedys have a long history of assassinations, means that some lunatic out there is going to at least want the street cred. Right? And then you add on top of that, he's speaking out about these certain things and all that different stuff. But Biden has refused to give him Secret Service. And truthfully, if I were Trump with my Secret Service detail, Vivek Ramaswamy, I don't know. There needs to be a food taster there. And it's highly concerning, of course, God forbid. But especially with that RFK situation, it's like, what the heck is wrong with Biden? Like, are you trying to get the guy killed? God forbid, obviously. Because again, God forbid, but I think if anything does happen to RFK and it's a known fact, RFK requested in like a 30-page document, hey, here are all the reasons I need a Secret Service detail. He documented all of the credible threats against his life, and they deliberately denied it. They didn't just ignore it. They actively said no. Again, God forbid anything happens to him. I think Biden and his White House needs to be held directly accountable there. Yeah. It's certainly, I think, a concern for a lot of people headed into 2024. But again, folks, last call here for Super Chats. We'll end around like 11:10, 11:15. But let's take a look. Here, Vivek the American Gandhi. I mean, he's much better than Gandhi, considering Gandhi was kind of a socialist subverter in many ways. But, it's okay. We'll take it. We'll take it. Let's take a look here. And what else we got going on here? Piers Morgan's Piers Moron's interview with Alex Jones, or ire, Piers Moron's ire with Alex Jones indeed does stem from that CIA NN interview, but it's just how AJ ridiculed him into a lispy oblivion that his show got canceled and AJ forced him back to Redcoat land is why. No, it's so true. It's so true. And honestly, just watching this entire chronicle, look, no shade towards our British viewers, and people know this, I am one of the more like pro-British American conservatives. Okay, there's a lot of dunking, obviously, 1776, the revolution, all that. I don't have any contempt for Britain or the British people. I see it as the mother or sister civilization to the United States, right? So I don't really get a rise out of dunking on British people or like, haha, you're dumb or this or that. But I do have to say, listening to this annoying British guy try to lecture the United States and its conservative movement about what free speech and who deserves a platform, and like his arguments aren't even intelligent. They don't even make sense. Ooh, it is true. It is true. In this case with Piers Morgan, yes, like someone does need to say to him as an American, you are British, shut up. Like your opinion doesn't matter. And it's very true. It's very true. And, that's no shade to our British viewers, obviously. We love the Brits, okay? Like I said, I don't hold animosity there. You won't see me posting anti-British memes outside of, like, Independence Day. But that is really a prime case of the lecturing, right? The moral lecturing of the annoying British guy who doesn't actually know what he's talking about, but his accent sounds smarter than those Americans. It's just very annoying to listen to. But it's so true. It's so true here. Talk about Canada's politics. See, Canada's a country that I happily make fun of a lot more than Britain, to tell you the truth. But truthfully, I don't take joy or pride or find it particularly all that funny that their politics are a disaster too. Because when you really think about it, I know this is going to sound globalist or whatever. I'm not making that point. I'm just kind of like, I'm not advocating for us to go in and fix Canadian politics or British politics. It's just a realistic understanding that the Anglosphere, if you want to call it that, right, the sort of old Commonwealth of the British Empire, the English-speaking countries that are most closely tied to Britain culturally, you know what I mean? That's United States, Canada, Australia. You can maybe make a case for, like, I don't know, South Africa and a couple other countries, but I'd probably say that's a lot less. Really, US, Canada, Australia, England. In many ways, our destinies are intertwined, okay? And considering where your countries are headed, but also our country, I wish it wasn't like that. But again, a realistic understanding is that it's simply true. The Anglosphere is still culturally connected, right? Where the UK goes, the US goes ultimately, culturally and politically, and it's vice versa in many ways. So, I don't take cheer or find it particularly funny that Canada's politics suck or the UK's or Australia's any more than America's. Because it's like, in many ways, there's a case to be made. We're all in this together. Okay? Really, we're all we got on the global stage. We pretend like we have allies in these other countries. We don't. Okay? When it came to certain times in history, it really was the US and the UK by itself. You know, and I respect that. And so that's why it's actually, you know, depressing for me a lot to see, first of all, Britain's politics go downhill and stuff like that. But it also, that's also why I oftentimes view it as a little bit short-sighted or ignorant when American conservatives make this culture out of like, haha, stupid British dunking on the Brits. It's like, I get it. There is an independence. There is a revolution. Okay. But in many ways, they still are our mother civilization. Like, I respect and understand and support the reasons we had to practically, for practical reasons, break away from British government. But I don't view the Brits with contempt, right? I view it as like, that's where this country comes from, is their country. Like, our country is descendant from the British Empire. And like I said, I think where Britannia goes, ultimately America goes, and vice versa. You know, and there's been sort of a shift in the paradigm. First, it was the UK leading the global stage. Now it's the US, but it really is the same. And most of our ideas that we consider to be founding ideals of America were inherited from Great Britain, right? So, again, I usually am not in favor of this like American conservative culture where we just make fun of the Brits all the time. But Piers Morgan, you really make it difficult for me, okay? Because yes, you are British and you do need to shut up. Because he's annoying. And he deserves it in many ways. But, you know, anyways. Let's see here. Bro, I'm so sick of hearing about Meghan Markle. Prince Harry deserves better. I mean, I assume you're British because I don't really hear a lot about Meghan Markle in this country. But yeah, you know, it's funny. Like, I had a debate once with a couple conservative friends of mine because, and I know this is a hot take, and this might be a hot take on this channel, but I am in favor of the British monarchy. You say, what do you mean by that? I'm not in favor of them coming to rule America. I just recognize that, like, the British monarchy is a tradition that has ruled, you know, Britannia since the Normans came there in, like, the, 1000s or something like that. And when you look at British politics, the movement to abolish the monarchy, which is a fringe movement in the UK but does exist, is not some type of like nationalist movement. Oh, we want a republic. We only idolize God. We don't idolize man. It's not that. It's a bunch of leftists who want to tear down tradition, right? And because the British monarchy is something that is traditional, it is a symbol, even if it's just symbolic at this point, which it is, but it's still a symbol of the old world of what Britain used to be. They want to get rid of it, right? And so, you know, obviously, like, I'm an American. I don't, like, we don't have a monarchy, and that's our country. But I also respect what the UK has in their country, and I think it's good for their country. And I think in some ways, the way those people are all able to unite over, hey, this is our king, it's old school, but I support it in their country. But I was talking once with some, like, American conservative friends of mine who said, you know, on one hand, Meghan Markle is annoying. On the other hand, it's kind of based because, you know, Meghan Markle is overthrowing or giving the finger to the British monarchy in 1776. And I'm like, dude, that is just such a weird belief. Truly, like, it's just a weird thing to say, okay? No, I do not support the British monarchy coming and taking back over America, obviously. But Britain and the US and the Anglosphere in general would not be a better place if the British monarchy was abolished. Because, like I said, that is one of the last symbols remaining in the West that represents the old world. That does not represent the modernist, Marxist takeover of everything. In many ways, it is conservative. So, but yeah, it's very true. It's very true about Meghan Markle. See, that's why you should not listen. In the same way, I don't want Piers Morgan, Brits, coming over and lecturing us about our politics and saying, well, at least we're not getting, it's more Australian, but smarter than mathematics class. You guys should not accept this annoying American woman who is incredibly privileged going over and like ruining your monarchy and slandering it. Okay? This is very true. All right, like I said, we are in this together. Okay, we are truly in this together. But yeah. Opinions like Piers are what put Britain in the current position that it is in. Yeah. On many levels that is real. That is real. All right, with that said, folks, last call for super chats. I'll end the stream here at about 11:20. But glad to see Alex Jones back. Truly. Ghost hunting with the multi... Okay, I'm not going to read that username. Says, Vince, please come and liberate Canada. I'm begging you. I mean, I know every American at some point has thought about invading Canada and what that would look like as a country. But truly, like, I have no desire to liberate Canada. I guess they have oil. If Alberta wants to secede and join us, I would take it. But, like, it's cold in Canada. They speak funny. Do we really want them? I mean, I think you have to make the case as to why we should want to take Canada in. All right? What do we have to gain from that? Truly. But yeah, let me know. Okay, last few super chats here. Dollar for Dollar sends a member chat saying, my goal is to be a Mar-a-Lago member. What about you? That would certainly be nice. That would certainly be nice. I mean, I'm not here to forecast the future or whatever. I mean, who knows? Who knows, A, if I will ever be that wealthy, because that's all in God's plan. Who knows? But B, because, I mean, let's be real about it. Trump's going to pass away someday. Will Mar-a-Lago even be cool after he's gone? I hope it is. But that would be such a fitting thing that the leftists always do. You know how, like, they just take over something that is cool and just destroy it? Wouldn't be surprised. They take back and infiltrate the country club. I hope not. But yeah, it would be cool to be a Mar-a-Lago member. I've never been inside Mar-a-Lago. I know people who have, but I have not. And I certainly want to... I mean, I've seen it from the outside, because I've been to West Palm Beach before, and it's funny. Just drove past it. It was like, oh, look, there's Mar-a-Lago. But never been inside. But yeah, that'd be cool. Thanks for the member chat. Dollar for $2 says, why are communists historically ugly and dumb? Well, we really don't have to overthink that question. They themselves, and also the things they build, that's another big thing. Like, what have communist countries ever built that was beautiful? Their art style is ugly and brutalist. Some of the most beautiful architecture in the world, I think, comes from the Russian Empire, right before the Soviets. The Soviets built nothing that was nice or was visually appealing. But I really do think oftentimes there's sort of this soul-body interaction. Like, it's something I genuinely believe. I think it's kind of a way that maybe, God tries to show us, hey, there's something wrong here, right? That inwardly ugly people with ugly beliefs produce fruits on the outside that are ugly and lacking of beauty and oftentimes dumb. So, the ancient Greeks coined it physiognomy. I don't think it's always a 100% predictor of everything, obviously, but there's something very real to the concept, right? Why do you ever notice this? Most leftists, I can almost always profile just by looking at them who's a conservative and who's on, a liberal or leftist, because like there's just a certain way they look. Like they have a face about them. You can almost see it in their eyes. And, you know, like I said, it's not an exact science. It's not always 100% true, but I definitely think there is something there. I think there is a connection between like the physical body, the mind, and the soul, and you kind of see it interact. I truly do believe that. That's why the happiest people out there usually, even if they're old, even if they have health issues, there's just something on the outside where you can see they look healthy. Whereas miserable people, you can see in their eyes that they're miserable, right? I think there's something very real there, and I think that also reflects why, you know, communists themselves historically have always looked so dysgenic. I mean, look at Karl Marx. I mean, just look at the guy, right? Why the art and the architecture and the things of quote-unquote beauty they've produced have always been brutalist and ugly. There's never been a single communist I can think of that created art that was genuinely good. I think there's a reason for that. And I think that whole concept there is very real. All right, I think this should be the last super chat here. Chief Constituent for $2 says, best thing to do in Gainesville. Well, I'd probably say the best thing to do is, you know, the football games. Obviously, football season is now over, and we will not be going to a bowl game, so, you know. But outside of that, there's not really much to do in Gainesville, to tell you the truth, besides nightlife. I mean, Midtown is pretty cool. Downtown's just kind of weird and ghetto in some ways, so I would recommend staying in Midtown. But I'd probably say just go around Midtown, check out some of the spots. I like the social, you know, that's nice when they're doing stuff. Yeah, there's my answer. Midtown, you're right across from campus. You can go see campus, and you've seen the two things there are to do in Gainesville. I guess the third thing I'm forgetting actually is the nature. Paynes Prairie State Park. There's probably another answer in terms of what to actually do in Gainesville. Paynes Prairie State Preserve. It's one of my favorite kind of like just natural parks anywhere. They have, there's that lookout on 441 when you're driving across the bridge. You can literally just stop your car and go out and look. I like the La Crosse Trail. You can look that up, La Crosse Trail, or I think it might be La Chua Trail. I forget which one. You almost always see gators on that hiking trail, so you can go see that. But yeah, either Paynes Prairie if you want to do nightlife. I mean, if you want to do nature. If you want to be social, then Midtown. And those are the two things there are to do in Gainesville. Besides that, there's literally nothing to do. So, Celebration Point, I guess, but there's better spots in other places than Celebration Point if you want to just like hang out in a mall or something. But okay. All right, one more super chat here. Canadian 5 from Andrew M says, if America annexes Canada, be prepared to get a messed up electoral college in 8 more safe blue states. Alberta and I don't even know how to say that word. Saskatchewan, did I say that right? Might be an exception. Yeah, Alberta is very conservative, but besides that, I don't want any part of Canada. And if we do, it would have to be a territory where they can't vote in our elections. But the problem is, you know what inevitably would happen is there'd be a Canadian representation movement, much like Puerto Rico, and eventually they would get the right to vote, and then we'd be stuck with a permanent blue country of stupid Canadians. So this is very true. Thank you for the 5 Canadian. All right, the super chats are coming in here. Sheeny Beanie for $2 says, JMU is going to a bowl game. Go Dukes. This is true. We are all JMU supporters on this channel. Go Dukes. Go Flames. Okay? Somehow, I want Liberty to upset Oregon. I don't think it's going to happen. I don't think it's even possible to happen. But, I mean, hey, they said that about Boise State in 2006. So you're saying there's a chance. This is so true. We're rooting for all the underdogs in these smaller bowl games. All right, that's a general rule of mine. In the playoffs, pulling for Alabama. But all right, with that said, folks, if we got no more super chats, and I will call it a night here. Thank you to everyone who tuned in here. I'm going to go take a very long sleep, because it has been an exhausting day. I've been up since 4:30. Can you believe that? All right, with that said, be sure to leave a like on the stream. Subscribe if you are new. Thanks for the support. God bless. Alpha moves only. Have a very good night, and peace.